but her bloom had vanished early. Elizabeth at 29 was still the same handsome Miss Elliot that she had begun to be 13 years ago. 13 years had seen her mistress of Kellynch Hall, laying down the domestic law at home. 13 winters' revolving frosts had seen her opening every ball of credit in the neighbourhood, and 13 springs shone their blossoms as she travelled up to London with her father for a few weeks' annual enjoyment of the great world. She had the remembrance of all this. She had the consciousness of being 29 to give her some regrets and some apprehensions. Elizabeth had had a disappointment. The heir presumptive, William Walter Elliot, Esquire, had disappointed her. As soon as she had known him to be the future baronet, Elizabeth meant to marry him, and her father had always meant that she should. But Mr. Elliot had purchased independence by uniting himself to a rich woman of inferior birth. Sir Walter had resented it, and though William Walter Elliot, Esquire, was now a widower, and Elizabeth was at this present time, the summer of 1814, wearing black ribbons for his wife, yet she still felt it with anger, for she had liked the man for himself, and still more for being his father's heir. And he had, as they had been informed by kind friends, spoken most disrespectfully of them all, and most contemptuously of the very blood he belonged to. This could not be pardoned. Such were Elizabeth Elliot's sentiments and sensations. But now another occupation and solicitude of mind was beginning to be added to these. Her father was growing distressed for money. She knew that when he now took up the baronetage, it was to drive the heavy bills of his tradespeople and the unwelcome hints of Mr. Shepherd, his agent, from his thoughts. He had condescended to mortgage as far as he had the power, but he would never condescend to sell. No, the Kellynch estate should be transmitted whole and entire as he had received it. Their two confidential friends, Mr. Shepherd, who lived in the neighbouring market town, and Lady Russell, were called on to advise them, and both father and daughter seemed to expect that something should be struck out by one or the other to remove their embarrassments and reduce their expenditure without involving the loss of any indulgence of taste or pride. Mr. Shepherd, a civil, cautious lawyer, who, whatever might be his hold or his views on Sir Walter, would rather have the disagreeable prompted by anybody else, excused himself from offering the slightest hint, and only begged leave to recommend an implicit deference to the excellent judgment of Lady Russell, from whose known good sense he fully expected to have just such resolute measures advised as he meant to see finally adopted. Lady Russell was most anxiously zealous on the subject, and gave it much serious consideration. She was desirous of saving Sir Walter's feelings, but they must retrench. That did not admit of a doubt. She drew up plans of economy, and she did what nobody else thought of doing. She consulted Anne. But they had no success at all.
What? Every comfort of life knocked off? Journeys, London, servants, horses, table, contractions and restrictions everywhere? No, he would sooner quit Kellynch Hall at once than remain in it on such disgraceful terms.
Quit Kellynch Hall. The hint was immediately taken up by Mr. Shepherd, who was perfectly persuaded that nothing would be done without a change of abode. Sir Walter would quit Kellynch Hall, and after a very few days more of doubt and indecision, the great question of whither he should go was settled. There had been 3 alternatives: London, Bath, or another house in the country. All Anne's wishes had been for a small house in their own neighbourhood, where they might still have Lady Russell's society and still be near Mary. But the usual fate of Anne attended her. She disliked Bath, and Bath was to be her home. Sir Walter had at first thought more of London, but Mr. Shepherd felt that he could not be trusted in London, and had been skilful enough to dissuade him from it and make Bath preferred. It was a much safer place for a gentleman in his predicament. He might there be important at comparatively little expense. Lady Russell was fond of Bath, and disposed to think it must suit them all. Sir Walter was not only to quit his home, but to see it in the hands of others. Kellynch Hall was to be let. This, however, was a profound secret. Mr. Shepherd had once mentioned the word advertise, but Sir Walter spurned the idea of its being offered in any manner. It was only on the supposition of his being spontaneously solicited by some
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.